Thank you, Mark. Thank you for not only your words, but your deeds or actions. I should introduce the topic, and then I will kindly ask Heribert Hirte, friend of mine and member of German Bundestag, to introduce the panel, which will discuss further the issue where we want to speak about freedom of religion, development, and of course, human rights in broader sense. I am really in the new position within the European Union, which is coming to its 60th birthday very soon. So, relatively mature union has a new position. For years we have applauded or appealed to do more for the freedom of conscience, freedom of thought, freedom of expression, and of course freedom of religion or belief. And it came with the bloody situation in the Middle East. I think it's a fruit of this martyrdom. We should be seriously responding, not only by the new positions, but new commitment to what's going on in our neighborhood. Freedom of religion is really crucial because it's a litmus test of human rights. Where freedom of religion or belief, it means in broader sense, thought and conscience is missing. Civil and political freedoms are missing as well. You can look to the countries, you can look to the history. It's a repetitive lesson. So we need to work for FORP. We used to use this abbreviation, FORP, in European terms. From many surveys, for example, recent Pew Center study research, overwhelming majority of global population affiliates with faith, certain faith, 84%. So I can say, and we can even underline, that those who do not understand religion, and especially the abuse of religion, cannot understand what's going on in the world, because it's really a global issue, and we need to understand in order to heal the wounds, to help people. The problem is not only that we frequently not understand, but in many countries, freedom of religion is deeply or broadly disregarded. The scale of disrespect is from the intolerance through discrimination, persecution, up to even genocide. Yes, I use the term genocide because what is going on the territory of Syria and Iraq under the dominance of Daesh, ISIS, is a genocide. It's not only my opinion, it's the opinion of the Council of Europe Parliamentary Assembly, opinion of European Parliament, US Congress, British House of Representatives, Australian Parliament, and many institutions, many organizations. Our governments don't follow too much this message, which is a pity because credibility of United Nations and international community is at stake. But what we should be aware that we are, in a way, in the time of a century of genocides. Heribert Hirte can say more later. Bundestag adopted, German Parliament in June, a resolution on Armenian genocide, which happened precisely a century ago, 100 years ago. So there were many atrocities of a systemic liquidation or extermination of those minorities or people on base of race, ethnicity, nation, nationality, or religion. And I think it's time to end the century of genocides, to start more human 21st century. It is possible. It is important. We are responsible for that, not only to say or describe, but to make a difference. There are many reports in the world on the freedom of religion. It's now growing. The previous picture, please, was a map published last month by the ACN, Aid to Church in Need, which shows the portrayal of the world in the last 2 years, speaking very clearly about the discrimination and persecution of Christians and of course, other minorities in the world, which shows, for example, that the trend in recent years is worsening, more and more negative. Yes, that's it. In red color, there are 23 countries with persecution, which is, of course, much more than only discrimination. And majority of these 23 countries or 23 territories is run by non-governmental forces like Daesh, ISIS, or Al-Nusra, or Taliban, or Boko Haram, or different other organizations. So the tendency is also to see more and more non-governmental actors persecuting the others, whether we speak or mean Yazidis, Christians, Shia Muslims, or Ahmadis or other. There are many countries where totalitarian regimes oppress seriously freedom of religion or belief. For example, probably the most striking example is North Korea, and of course many others. I don't want to speak in details, but rather to say situation is bleak and tendency is negative. The most difficult is the neighborhood of Europe, which is Middle East. I like to and used to prefer to speak about Near East, Nahe Ost, or something what is very close to us, not only geographically, but also mentally, culturally, because Middle East represents the roots of our civilization, cradle of our cultures, and it's very important to remember and to act because what's going on, if we can switch to the next picture, yeah, is really a slaughter of the people based on their religion or the conviction, ethnicity, and its genocidal liquidation. We committed ourselves after the Second World War, you know it well, through the studies, to three basic principles of the never again policy: to prevent the genocide, to protect victims, and to punish criminals. And we are weak, and we are even forgetting all three: to prevent, to protect, and to punish the criminals. And therefore, again and again, these sort of situations we see not only in media, but really in close countries. In the past, it was hidden, it was covered. Today, it's online. The demonstration of fear, demonstration of ideology, of hatred, is organized and broadcasted in time. ISIS is not religion, it's a terrorist organization, and therefore it must be dealt with as with the terrorist organization, stopped and defeated. What's going on is today the unprecedented wave of refugees and migrants, which means, for example, 85 million people as refugees or forced internally displaced persons means a record high number of such people in the world, according to United Nations. A record high. So the tendency is growing. 65 million, people. The most problematic situation within the Middle East, and of course we shall say more in the panel, is in Iraq and in Syria. In Iraq, there was, before 2003, 1.5 million Christians, for example, and today slightly or hardly 250,000 remains. They are getting to the levels of extinction. Metropolitan Sharaf will say much more and bring testimony. But what is needed in Iraq after final liberation of Mosul and Nineveh Plains is not only peace but also justice, because peace is fruit of justice. Frequently we forget it. And justice is also precondition of real reconciliation and living together. We will help, we need to help, it's our interest, it's not just kind of solidarity. It's reasonable and very important solidarity, but it will be very difficult time for the country. Syria became the battlefield of many domestic and foreign, as it was said, powers or interests. Aleppo is in agony, which is really a drama. Syria evidently needs political, not military solution. There is a great work of faith-based organizations, for example, Aid to Church in Need or Christian Solidarity Worldwide, L'Œuvre d'Orient, and many others. I applaud them. We work together on the spot. Recently, the visit of patriarchs in Brussels was a great show of unity coming together, appealing to United Nations and European Union, these two, for more assistance through the voice of children. More than million point two children of Syria in drawings and their messages and letters appeal for peace for them. It was a very great message from 3 patriarchs, and they came not only to Brussels but also to Geneva. Where are sources of hope? I already speak about freedom of religion or belief being permanent part of policies. I'm not here suddenly or as isolated man. European Union 3 years ago adopted guidelines for freedom of religion or belief, which means 28 countries united how to use this important instrument. 2 years ago, 2014, there was intergroup in the parliament created after elections called Intergroup on Freedom of Religion or Belief and Religious Tolerance. There is also, since last year, a new contact group of countries committed to freedom of religion, initiated by Canada. We are part of it. And of course, I am here as newly established special envoy for freedom of religion outside the Union. There are many countries which are keen on this. There are parliaments like International Parliamentary Platform. Since 2 years, there is Stephanuskreis here in Bundestag, which is led by Heribert Hirte. I'm sure we can make a difference. We can promote what is essential value for Europe and for the humanity. Each crisis means also opportunity, and I hope that we will exploit this crisis as not only learning process, but maturation. It is about education to live together, because the diversity is not a problem. Diversity is the definition. Everybody in this hall is different. Everybody is original, authentic. But we all are equal in dignity. This universal principle should be embraced not only by European but international organizations. And we also need to educate how to live in this diversity, because this was about the boys which are growing, yes, in coexistence, invitation. Religions represent enormous potential, really enormous, if they are used for the good, for the better, for brotherhood. The spirit of brotherhood is mentioned in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We forget it. This is the duty with many rights to behave in the spirit of brotherhood. Instead of religious wars in the past, we can and we should speak about religious wars, religious peace. And it's the role of religious leaders, not only to speak about it, but to work for it. And I just want to remind few examples when, for example, Assis meeting in '86 and now shows that world religions can not only meet, but appeal unisono, the same wording to the global community to really embrace peace and justice. Patriarch of Rome and Patriarch of Moscow met first time in history because of genocidal situation in the Middle East. They met this February in Cuba. Islamic countries have been working on many important new messages. Amman message several years ago produced by initiative of Jordanians. A common word. This year, Marrakesh Declaration. More than 120 countries speaking on this declaration. I am going tomorrow to Abu Dhabi to meet the global forum of Islamic societies, which is oriented towards peace, not only in these societies. Last not least, this month, and I'm happy that Professor Alberto Melano is here, there was European Academy of Religion established to embrace knowledge about religions and to help not only universities, but nations to work together for peace and humanity. Last part of the label or the topic is development. I'm glad that I'm in Germany and we are working here because Germany is one of the protagonists of more reasonable or efficient development policy. European Union invests 27 billion euro in coming or present 7 years through development aid. Much more can be achieved, not only with the money, but with the focus of our aid. It must be more oriented towards reforms, human rights, and of course through education to also towards jobs and growth. I am also on the same side with those who say we can and we should help our neighbors to solve European problems. 5 Ps are parts of our homework in the world for sustainable development. People, planet, peace, prosperity, and partnership. And Germany is very active in this. I'm happy that this country shows that, for example, engagement of religious communities and religious leaders is a must. It cannot be just something forgotten or left behind, but central in many countries because religious realities and even religious conflicts are frequently used against the progress, against development. Ladies and gentlemen, allies of evil are 3: indifference, ignorance, and fear. Indifference, ignorance, and fear. I'm glad that this institute is an antidote of all 3 because you are not afraid, because we turn together and we want to act. We want to do more than just observe or comment the situations. And the questions are many, but the answers must be reasonable and personal. And I hope that with the ICD, its mobilization, its contribution, we can really make a different century. We can stop the century of genocides and start better time of more humanity and more humane time. Thank you.